The greatest of all time in every single division versus the current champion. I feel like most of us would agree that MMA has evolved. The competition has gotten better. I feel like 170 is a perfect example of this. The competition gets better every single year, but has it gotten better enough for the current champion to beat the greatest of all time in their absolute prime? We're going to start with the heavier divisions. You'll see why in a little bit. Starting off with Magomed Ankalaev versus Jon Jones, the current champion versus the light heavyweight GOAT. Now we have to think, when was Jon Jones, when was he in his absolute prime? I think if you throw Magomed in there when he faced Dominic Reyes, Santos, Anthony Smith, I think Jon Jones loses pretty easily. I think Magomed is definitely better than all of those guys. I think even if you throw him in there in his earlier days against Rampage Jackson, Shogun, Rashad Evans, I still think he loses. But prime Jon Jones, when he fought Gustafsson, especially the second time, Daniel Cormier, when he fought those guys multiple times, that's when he was in his prime and how I think the fight would actually go. Now we have to think light heavyweight is one of the few divisions, one of pretty much two divisions where it's gotten worse over time. We know guys like Gustafsson, Daniel Cormier, Rumble Johnson, Jon Jones are way ahead of guys like Alex Pereira, Yuri Prohaska, especially in the skill level. But I feel like for Magomed Ankalaev, he's one of the few guys in the division, if not the only guy in the division, that I really think could compete with the best at that time. I think that he's the one guy that really sticks out. Magomed, he also does a lot of things that Jon Jones historically struggles against. One, he's a much bigger opponent. He has very good boxing, which probably is the weakest point of Jon Jones' game. He is extremely fast. He's powerful. He has good takedown defense, and he has great cardio. If we look at Gustafsson, what made that first fight so difficult for Jon Jones? Well, we know Gustafsson is very big. He's much bigger than Jon Jones's previous opponents, which again, Magomed is a very similar size to that. He has good boxing, he's long, he's a great striker, and he has great takedown defense. Who does that remind you of? Magomed Ankalaev. Now, what exactly made Jon Jones be able to get the decision over a lot of guys like Dominic Reyes and Gustafsson, who again are very similar to Magomed Ankalaev? It's because both of those guys slowed down in the fourth and fifth, and their gas tank wasn't as good as Jon Jones. They both lost the fourth and fifth pretty convincingly. Magomed Ankalaev, he's not going to slow down though. He has arguably the best cardio at 205. He is not going to slow down even against Jan Blachowicz, where he did get hurt earlier on. His leg was getting destroyed. He was able to weather the storm, get a 10-8, nearly a finish in the fifth round, which is going to be a big problem for Jon Jones. He's used to facing guys that don't have similar cardio as him, especially in the heavier divisions. I think also with Ankalaev, with his southpaw stance, the straight left hand is going to be a great weapon for him. We saw him rock Alex Pereira, who's, arguably a better striker than Jon Jones. It's pretty close, I feel like, with those two. He's extremely fast. As fast as Jon Jones is, he's going to be way faster than Jon Jones. But with that being said, Jon Jones, he could still win this fight pretty easily. Has a lot of strengths in his prime. On roids, obviously, we know he was on roids for the Gustafsson fight, especially the second one where he technically did pop. He is able to get guys who have good takedown defense on the ground and dominate them. I think he can get Magomed Ankalaev on the ground. I just don't think he's going to be able to finish or dominate him necessarily. Maybe to win close rounds, but I think Magomed, his grappling may be even better than a guy like Gustafsson. We know he's very good on the feet. His leg kicks, the oblique kicks are going to be there, especially to stop the pressure of Magomed Ankalaev. I don't see a finish. We know that Magomed is powerful, but Jon Jones has a great chin. It's going to be hard for Magomed to finish Jon Jones. I personally don't think he will. Maybe he's able to hurt Jon Jones with his speed, but I don't think he's going to knock out Jon Jones. Overall, how do I see this fight going? I see it being very similar to the Gustafsson fight. I think even if you put 2018, 2017 Jon Jones, it's going to be very similar to the first Gustafsson fight. A back and forth fight where I think it's going to go to the scorecards. I think it's going to be like a 48-47 split decision. It's going to be very controversial. There's going to be an immediate rematch. I would lean Magomed Ankalaev just because I trust him enough, unlike the other guys where he's not going to slow down and he's going to do enough in the fourth or fifth to narrowly win it. I wouldn't be shocked if Jon Jones wins. I just think that this is one where it's going to be like a split decision, a super competitive fight. Next up, we have Jon Jones, the current champion. I know it's weird for heavyweight. There's kind of two champions right now versus the divisional GOAT, Stipe Miocic. Now, obviously, this is a rematch. They already fought, and Stipe definitely was washed. He had no business fighting, but Jon Jones was also washed. I feel like Jon Jones definitely, some people may say he's good enough right now to beat Tom Aspinall. He's 100% not in his prime right now. He's 37 years old. And I feel like we're assuming that if both guys are in their prime, it's around the same time, 2017, 2018. Jon Jones, after beating maybe Daniel Cormier the second time, he moves up. He doesn't take 3 years to bulk. He's kind of light. He only adds on 10, 20 pounds. He's still a very small heavyweight. Versus Stipe, defending his belt. He already has a few title defenses in around 2018. Now, Stipe during this time was actually viewed kind of similar to Tom Aspinall, a guy who has great boxing, super powerful, and finishes guys easily in the first round. However, this would be Stipe's toughest test to date. We know that Jon Jones has an insane chin. It's going to be very hard for Stipe to knock him out. We know that the striking defense is way better for Jon Jones than the guys that Stipe was knocking out. I mean, it was ridiculous. Hands completely down, horrible technique. And on top of that, the oblique kicks, it's going to slow down Stipe. Plus, even if Stipe is able to stuff takedowns early, which I think he would be able to, in the later rounds, he's likely going to get taken down as he starts to kind of slow down, as he starts to fatigue. And I just don't see him knocking out Jon Jones. I think Jon Jones is able to win this fight fairly easily after dropping the first round. I think he wins 2, 3, 4, and 5, and every single round gets more and more clear. I think Jon Jones 49-46, maybe 48-47, but pretty dominant. I don't think he gets a finish, but I think he wins the fight pretty clear. Anderson Silva versus Dricus du Plessis, the current champion. Now, I feel like if this was Khamzat Chimaev, I would be a little bit more confident in him beating Anderson Silva. But for Dricus du Plessis, I think he could beat Khamzat Chimaev. I just think styles make fights, and Khamzat, I'm very confident, would submit Anderson Silva in the first round. But this is very similar to the Adesanya fight, where we see a smooth striker versus a sloppy striker who just barrels forward, no regard with what's coming back. But after Dricus's recent performance against Sean Strickland in the rematch, it's very clear he has underrated technique, he has great game plans, and he is technical. He is good on the feet. He's good pretty much everywhere. He's also a great grappler. Anderson Silva in his prime, I would say 2010, 11, 12, around the Chael Sonnen rematch where he looked a lot better compared to the first fight. But even in his prime, against Chael Sonnen, we saw a lot of holes in his game. In the first fight, he was getting dominated, and yes, he beat him twice, but he won by a 5th round Hail Mary submission. Dricus is way better on the ground than Chael Sonnen. He's even better on the feet. He's more well-rounded, where I'm confident Anderson Silva is not going to submit him, and I think Dricus du Plessis can submit Anderson Silva. I feel like the second fight as well, he got dominated in the first round, and then he came back after Chael Sonnen gassed out and beat him with ground and pound. Dricus, his gas tank is better than Chael Sonnen. He's going to push more than Chael Sonnen. I do think that's the main path to victory for Anderson Silva. Can he catch him and knock him out? Possible, but Dricus du Plessis is very durable, and I don't know if I really see that happening. I don't think Silva knocks him out, and I'm pretty confident that the division has gotten way better over time. This is one of the biggest improvements we've seen, and I do think Dricus du Plessis isn't that sloppy, and I think he beats him in the grappling, and I think he gets an early submission. I'm saying 2nd or 3rd round submission after it's close on the feet, but Dricus du Plessis is winning every round by the grappling, and he doesn't slow down. Next up for 170, we have JDM versus GSP. I feel like that 170 again has gotten so much better over the past year, let alone the past 10 years, really since GSP has fought in that division. We know that JDM, he's very powerful. He's a great boxer. GSP is good, but he is nowhere near as dangerous, even in his prime, as a guy like JDM. We know JDM is very hard to hold down. I'm sure GSP can take him down and may be able to hold him down, but with how good JDM is at scrambling, he's going to get better every single fight. It's going to be a very difficult fight for GSP. I know in his prime, he was amazing. He is one of, if not the best fighter of all time. But how this matchup I see going, if you look at the Matt Hughes fight, right? That was a great fight, great performance from GSP, the 2nd and 3rd fight. The 3rd fight I really feel like was in his prime. He was stuffing all the takedowns. I know he started off kind of as a striker, and he was just landing, a few really good kicks, but nothing too crazy outside of the jab. Nothing that JDM really hasn't seen before. And for Matt Hughes, he wasn't really throwing anything on the feet. You know, he was known for being kind of a great grappler, but not much on the feet. And we saw that. And we saw GSP knock him out, I believe, with a head kick or something like that and finish him pretty early. I think JDM has so much more on the feet compared to Matt Hughes. And in the third fight, which I do believe was GSP's prime, we saw him actually take down Matt Hughes in the clinch. We saw Matt Hughes kind of initiate the exchanges, which I don't think JDM would do. And I think JDM would be good enough to get up off of his feet. I think as good as GSP is, I really am leaning with JDM on this one. I don't think I'm really underestimating GSP. I'm just so high on JDM, where I feel like on the feet, even in GSP's prime, he's undoubtedly better than GSP on the feet. He's way more dangerous. How GSP wins this fight, which he easily could, is by getting takedowns, which is very possible, and holding him down. I don't see him submitting JDM. JDM is clearly better than he was against Burns. He's massively improved. So I don't really think that we could even look at, oh, well, look at the Burns fight where I think he's so much better now than he was then. Same thing with the Hafez fight. GSP, I see him getting takedowns. I just don't see him holding JDM down, and I think on the feet he's going to punish GSP so much where it's really going to get at his gas tank. JDM, I don't really think he's going to slow down. I don't think GSP's gas tank is that much better, and I think JDM is able to get a finish. This may be one of the hottest takes, but I think JDM is that good. Can GSP win this fight? Of course. Would he be the favorite? Probably slightly, even in his prime. I think it would be honestly the hardest fight of his career. It would be way harder than Michael Bisping. I think it would be harder than Johnny Hendricks, even though both of those he wasn't really in his prime. And I think it would be harder than Matt Hughes, to be honest. I am going to go with JDM by a late 4th to 5th round TKO, in my opinion, or a very close decision. Moving on to the next one, we have Islam Makhachev versus the current champion, which we don't really know. It's going to be either Charles Oliveira or Ilia Topuria. I do think Islam is the divisional GOAT. I have him over Khabib, although it's very close. If he would have just stuck around for one more fight or Arman didn't pull out and he won, he would have easily been the divisional GOAT, but unfortunately that didn't happen. Now, Islam going back down to 155 is 100% possible. It's not out of the realm where he loses or even he wins and he comes back down, although I think it is unlikely. I'm kind of waiting to see what happens because I want to do a more in-depth video on Islam versus Ilia. But how I think Islam versus Charles Oliveira, the rematch, would go in the current day, I think Islam would win unless he gets knocked out and has to go back down. I just think with Charles Oliveira, he doesn't get finished. I think it's a much closer fight. I think Islam is better on the feet. I don't know if he has as many weapons on the feet where Oliveira, I believe with his Muay Thai background, is very skilled on the feet, but I think Islam Makhachev is able to survive. He mixes in the grappling, and I think he wins a close decision, which is very shocking because both of those guys are insane finishers. For Ilia Topuria, I really think it's 50-50. In my opinion, I do think Islam Makhachev will get Ilia down very early, and I think he'll be able to hold him down. I'm pretty confident in that, where I don't think it's going to be a first round KO. I do think people say, oh, if Islam gets him down, it's wraps. I don't agree with that. We've seen Islam, kind of slow down as the rounds go on, where Ilia, I think he has a very underrated gas tank. He hasn't shown that he's going to slow down. Maybe it's different at 155, where I think if Islam isn't able to slow him down, he's in constant danger the entire fight, where I do think Ilia could get like a 4th or 5th round KO after losing the first 3 rounds. Right now, I'm 50-50. If I had to pick today, I would pick Makhachev, although Ilia is arguably his toughest fight to date. Moving on to the next one, Alexander Volkanovski versus Alexander Volkanovski, the current champ versus the divisional GOAT. I mean, I don't really know what to say with this one. I guess if I had to give a hot take, I do think Volkanovski is easily the divisional GOAT. I feel like some people will say Jose Aldo. After he beat Lopez, there's absolutely no debate. And in my opinion, after he beat Holloway for the 3rd time, there was no debate. Jose Aldo, he lost to nearly every single great in that division. I think Volkanovski in his prime, I think he does beat like a Conor McGregor. Again, I'm saving this for my fantasy matchup videos, which should be coming out in about a week or so. So I don't want to say too much, but I do think Volkanovski is the GOAT. Moving on to the next one, again, Merab versus Merab. I think Merab is easily the divisional GOAT, in my opinion. I don't think it's really close. We'll see how he does against O'Malley in the rematch. I think it's very close. I think O'Malley could win. I think the first fight was extremely close. And I do think the odds aren't fair. I think people are overlooking Sean O'Malley in the rematch. What I will say is Merab, if I had to give a hot take, I think he does good and very well at any point at Bantamweight. I think for Merab, his attributes are an insane gas tank, insane durability. Those things, as MMA has evolved, they're not really going to change. If you have a good gas tank, it's going to help you at any point in the UFC. Same thing with having an insane amount of power. It's going to help you at any point in the UFC, no matter how much it evolves. I think Merab, I think he would beat guys like Dominic Cruz. I think he would be able to beat him. TJ Dillashaw, I think, would be tough, but even then, I'm still kind of leaning Merab just with his ability to never stop, constantly shoot. I think you have to knock out Merab to beat him, which I do trust Sean O'Malley to be able to do. I don't know if I'm going to pick him, though, but I think Sean O'Malley has a better chance of beating Merab than guys like Dillashaw and guys like Dominic Cruz, Aljamain Sterling, because he has a better ability to finish Merab, which is how you beat him. Pantoja versus DJ, I feel like would be very close, to be honest. I feel like Pantoja, starting off, he's not going to get finished. He has a great ground game. He has an insane chin. And DJ is in a lot more danger than Pantoja is. So Pantoja, it definitely is a close fight. This would be DJ's hardest fight outside of maybe Henry Cejudo, who does have a better ability to get it to the ground, but he doesn't have as good of a submission game, even though I don't think Pantoja submits DJ. On the feet, though, Pantoja definitely has a better opportunity and better chance of hurting DJ. I do think DJ is the better striker and is more fast. He's more quick on his feet, elusive, where Pantoja kind of just walks forward. I do think DJ would win the fight in a very close fashion, similar to Cejudo. But I think that Henry Cejudo lost the fight to DJ. I feel like they only gave it to him off of control time, which is my big worry for this fight, that they would just give it to Pantoja just over control time. But how I would score the fight based off of damage, even though Pantoja does hit harder, I do think DJ would win a very close decision, 48-47. I'm not sleeping on Pantoja, though. He is one of the best 125ers of all time, hands down. I think easily, if he beats Kai Kara-France, easily in the top 3, undisputed. 125 has gotten so much better over time. I know people love Demetrius Johnson, but to act like this isn't a difficult fight, even in DJ's prime, is absolutely insane. I would lean DJ, but I am going to go with him by a close decision, in my opinion. Let me know which one of these you disagree with. I feel like a lot of these, the new generation has gotten so much better outside of light heavyweight and heavyweight. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you disagree with. But yeah, that is it for